Milestone 2, welcome everybody. We're going to start with Calculord today. Come on up.
Okay. There we go. Hello everybody, my name is Donald Chepis. I am the team lead for Calculord. So over this milestone we've been focusing a lot on the back and forth with our client, trying to settle down on a UI style, something that aesthetically and layout wise is something that he appreciates while maintaining usability for the user, as well as trying to keep everything relatively simple without having too many effects or anything flashy that's going to be a problem for us down the line. And so we've been going through a lot of different iterations of background, of line style, of how we handle the transition from our foreground to our background elements. And it's been quite the process. It's something that's going to take us more time to do. We've got a placeholder pack we recently purchased that you'll see in the build later. That it's not exactly what we want, but it's something that's production ready that we don't have to spend a couple of weeks making to only throw out later. So we're moving ahead on that. And also something that's incredibly important for us, because there is a heavy focus in the application, is the progress bar at the top. It needs to be interesting. It needs to convey the information about student progress as well as the breakdown of that progress. Our progress bar can't just be the total amalgamation of everything they're doing in that year. It also has to show them how much they've done in arithmetic, in geometry, and whatever categories they have in their specific grade, because we want them to be able to know how far they've advanced in each of these areas, as well as their total progress. And so we've been going through a lot of iterations, messing with the internals of the progress bar, trying to find something that is aesthetically pleasing, something that's a little more active on the page, that way your attention's drawn to it, so that way the students are always keeping their progress in mind. And something we realized kind of halfway through the process is that we've been focusing too much on just a generic bar. How can we take a progress bar, make it something different, make it something that's interesting, while still maintaining readability and understanding? And so that's a continuing process. It's a bit of throwing stuff on the wall, seeing what sticks, figuring out the direction that's going to be best for us. And that's going to be a process that continues probably throughout the entire development of the GUI as well. We've also been working on a lot of our economy design. While we're waiting on the UI stuff and having proper layout tools to mess with and figure out what's going to be best for the students, we've been taking time to think about how our economy works. So the cost of items, how the abilities an item has affects how much the player should have, how much effort the player should have to put in to earn that item. And so we're developing a system that will allow us to rapidly determine the difficulty and cost of items. So as you have more abilities listed on an item, that equates to a specific modifier based on the item type. So a helmet might start at a currency value of 5. And if it's got 3 abilities, depending on the weighted importance of those abilities, we might add, for a damage multiplier, we might add a ×1 for every point that you have in that damage stat. So if you've got a damage modifier of 2 on it, now all of a sudden we're adding a ×2 to the modifier for the currency. And so that way, once we've got that entire economy figured out, when we have content updates, add new items, do anything, all we have to do is plug it into that formula and we know exactly how much it should cost. And that rapidly decreases any sort of balancing we have to do in the late game when it's a released product, or when we're adding new batches of items as we're going through our testing phase, because we don't have to sit there and think, okay, we've just added these items with these new abilities, how does that ruin our entire economy design and the cost versus the usefulness of items? We're also refining our process from taking something from concept art to production ready art. It's a lot about just making sure that our concept art gets cleaned up in the proper fashion, and also that we maintain the depth and shape and volume of each piece. And so that's a process we're refining, so that way we have a quicker transition from concept art to production art, having that art in the game. We've also finished up the progress we're making on our teen female base. So we've been answering a lot of questions that we've been having about how do we have the transition from a child to a teen to an adult throughout the course of the application? How do we handle things like the poly count and LODs for our model? For instance, this model, the head is separate from the body. So not only can we swap different body types in, so that way we have a little more customization for the player, but the head is at a much higher poly count, so that when you zoom in, you don't get the issue that we had in our previous model of they just don't really look quite right. They're kind of ugly when you get close. And we've also been having a lot of back and forth with our client, trying to figure out the style for the character and what's appropriate, kind of mixing the realism that you would normally expect just from real life period and the stylized formats that a lot of other games use, and trying to find something that's nice in the middle, also while keeping into account a lot of concerns we have about body image and things like that. We have a moral responsibility on ourselves to not present a ridiculous, completely out of whack character that kids are going to look at and be like, man, I should look like that, but I can't because it's physically impossible, and thus that's a whole can of worms that we want to avoid entirely. And then for our build, so with our change to our new production style using Git flow, and just with the general cleanup that we're doing, taking assets that were prototype assets and moving that into a space that exists in production, we're having this slow, gradual process of moving everything over and fixing it up. But something new that we've been adding in is our bulletin board. This is something that we've been wanting from day one. It's a way for the students in a class to share their achievements, to interact with the teacher, to interact with one another, as well as how we show them the things that they need to be working on. So we've got our new assignments tab that basically pulls from the server and says, okay, you've got this group quest that you have to do. So if everybody needs to be contributing attempts into a particular quest, we can track that there. If you have a particular quest that's been assigned to you, that's your homework. That's what you need to do before you get into school tomorrow. It'll be listed there under your assignments. With the news, we now have a system that allows us to send a alert to the server that sends it to everybody's billboard. So that way you can share items. That way you can, when you complete a achievement, get a title. When you complete a group quest phase, anything like that, we'll be able to throw that up to our news system and have that actually display and update once we've got our user testing in there. And we're also working on having our teacher and student chat functionality. So we want the student to be able to chat real-time, live, one-on-one, no restrictions with the teacher, as well as having a more restricted form of chat that's primarily limited to emotes and sharing items like you would see in the newsfeed. And we also are messing around with the snapping and flow of the transitions to our different panes. So now you can see that before it was a little smoother, was more gradual transition. We've increased the snap, so that way we don't have kind of this, it felt just slow and kind of imprecise before, but now when you go through it, it snaps solidly, there's a good transition time, we're not waiting on it, and we're going to be testing that in the future as we continue on. And we're also looking at presenting our UI elements, some of our concepts to a bunch of kids at a daycare, so we're doing that probably later this month or early next, as we're just continuing forward, trying to move into a more review-based environment. And we're also having the opportunity to work with a couple of educators and get a lot of those questions that we need answered actually answered, which will help us greatly in the months to come as it comes to developing how we show our content. And that's kind of it for this milestone. We're looking forward to having a lot more data to go on as we build things in the future, which will help us overall with the project. And thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Bart Driscoll, project lead for Reign of Rebellion. Also, hello online people. Hopefully I'm in frame. So, for this sprint, just like the last, we focused on a lot of pre-production, getting a lot of the story done for some more important pieces of the game, specifically our maps, trying to get a good story down for why these places exist, why the people are there, why the teams are fighting there. Also, in some of the pre-production, we've done another paper map for one of our levels, which will greatly help the environment artist who is working on it, as well as making full wireframe kind of layout for the menu UIs, so that the programmers know where to put everything once we have all the assets and how to wire it up going from one menu to the next. At the end of the sprint, we were able to get one of our characters done. This is the Bruto character, the sort of tank character on the Magic team. He's going to be the team's point man. He also has his different abilities, like shooting a energy ball out of his right arm. So we took that into the character design of adding all these runes on his right side that we're going to have glow as he activates his abilities. Here's one of our first environments that we're getting a lot of assets done for. This is our airship being worked on by Tristan Hutchins. We have the sort of like deck area down here, as well as the balloon, which has armor. It's going to have a kind of furnace on the front of it there with some smoke and embers coming out of it, as well as cannon turrets that are going to be on the side of it, making it look like it's some kind of war vessel. Here are some assets from our factory level. Just some walls, vents, other side pieces, other props that are going to be scattered throughout the level, and kind of how the construction is going to look at the top picture. Here's our temple level, showing off kind of more of the texturing side that we want with one of the teams, as well as some props and some construction, showing off what we want, or just the general feel of the level. And lastly, we have the caverns level, showing off the layout of some of the buildings, as well as the interior of the map, sort of inside of those buildings and what those walls of the buildings will look like, as well as some centerpieces we have right here of the crystals, and how we want it to kind of just be transparent but also have light refract through it. As far as our programming this sprint, we've had one of our programmers work a lot on particle effects to add sort of more flair to our characters. For our debugging, we've added test enemy inside the map so we can test different damage types, as well as collisions on some of our abilities as well as our attacks. And we're working right now on implementing a chat system for the games, and it's going to be multiplayer. Right now it's not in the build, but this is sort of what it will look like. So let's get on to the build. So first of all, here's our wizard character we've had for a while, just showing off the new sort of fire particle effect we have coming out of him for his fireball. We wanted to get something better than what we had before, just to make it actually feel like it's hitting something, leaving embers behind. Whoops. Switch teams here. I'll show off some of the other particle effects we have for most of the melee classes that we have in our game. We wanted to give more flair to when they're swinging their weapon, to make it, I guess, more showy is a good way to put it. It's going to be on most of all of our characters, since most of them rely on some kind of melee. We're thinking of just giving them different colors to differentiate between them. Whoops. Sadly, with our game right now, we have two characters that have very similar names, so me and a lot of the rest of our team, in conversation with talking about them, get very confused on which one it actually is. Guess we need to have to talk about that. See about name changes. There we go. So right now we have these kinds of swish effects as well as particles coming off of it, just to give that feel of the weapon really swinging. We're thinking also adding, for most of the hammer classes, some kind of hit effect where it does hit, it kind of blows up off of their armor or off of walls, just to give it just that much more flair and fun to playing the character, or some impact to it to make it feel real. And that is it for this sprint.
Hello everybody, my name is Alex Watson. I'm the team lead for Operation Red Rhino, and I'm going to be talking about what we did for Sprint 2. So our goals for this sprint, number one was the encumbrance system, getting that in and talking with our stamina system, and I'll talk a little bit about how those two systems affect each other on that slide. Getting our first 4 weapons in and our rolls balanced. Isaac worked a lot on setting those weapons curves. You got 2 assault rifles, a submachine gun, and a sniper rifle done. So we're really excited about that. Now the game is actually play testable, so that's nice. We got the role selection UI work. Since we had to get the roles in there, we needed a way to allow a player to select between those. So that was a whole new set of UI that needed to be not only programmed, but also we had to get some art in there for. We got our neutral bomb game mode in. We got our kill to respawn system in, and then we white boxed the scout node. So that is our 4th out of 5 that we're planning for this semester. Here are some assets that we got from our subcontractors. Down here is an AK-47, so that's one of the weapons that Isaac has balanced right now. So that's in there. It still just has the placeholder model. Once this one gets finished off, we're gonna get that rigged up and get that in the build. So that's coming. And then up there is one of the tanks that Stanley's making. So that's coming along nicely. We're actually getting a lot of good assets from our subcontractors, so I'm really excited about those. So the encumbrance system, I'm gonna talk about it right now, but it's easier just to show it. Basically what it is all of the equipment in our game has a weight assigned to it, and all those are real world weights. So they had to do a lot of balancing on how that would actually affect the character across the different classes. Your total inventory weight is applied to your amount of total stamina, how fast your stamina burns, and how fast it regens. So it'll affect how long you can run, and then how long it takes your character to then recover from that. And then weight sheds as equipment is deployed. So if you have things like C4, grenades, ammo, health packs, anything that you're consuming, once you consume that weight is no longer going to be applied to your character. So you can load yourself up to get into battle, and then as you're throwing grenades, you're going to kind of speed up for the later half of that round. The first 4 weapons that we have in are G3A1, the AK-47, the KA-50, which is a submachine gun. I didn't know what that was. Isaac did a ton of research, and that actually is a pretty cool weapon. It's a submachine gun that shoots a 7.62 round, which is insane. And then our Dragunov, which is our first sniper rifle that we have planned. This is our role selection UI that we have in there right now. The loadout stuff down here. That's still a little bit wonky just because we haven't actually switched over how the loadout system, we're still working with our old loadout system. So that UI isn't going to be on there when I load up the build, but the rest of the stuff is in there and it's working. It's pretty awesome. And I just want to shout out Doug he's our online programmer. He's been our in-game UI programmer. He got minimap working, the health bar working, the stamina bar working, all this stuff working. So he's been big. Neutral bomb game mode. Between Valentine and Charles, they knocked this one out. there's a neutral bomb pickup in the middle of the map. Both teams can go pick it up. There's plant site logic, so that you can't plant on your own bomb plant site. Team A has to plant on Team B's bomb plant site. Team B has to plant on Team A's. So we got that working. Variables for the pickup and plant timers, that's big because next sprint we're going to be working on our Saboteur class, and they're going to be able to deploy bombs and stuff like that much quicker than the other classes. So you'll see when I go to pick up the bomb as the rifleman, it'll take, I think we have it set to 10 seconds right now just to show that off, whereas we can scale that across the different classes. And then the kill to respawn system, that was big. Getting it in so that we're saving player deaths in an enum and then being able to rotate them through that and call them in to respawn on a team kill is pretty cool, and it's really fun to play too. Scout node, here's the first two pictures for our scout node getting white boxed by Dom. What he's trying to do is for the scout node, the defending team is going to have a sniper rifle. So he was designing a space that would lend itself to longer sight lines and a game mode that lend itself to longer sight lines and trying to pick off enemies from a distance, but also having enough cover in there for the assaulting team to bound between cover and rush those spots to try and counter that sniper if they have a well coordinated team. So I'm going to show off the build real quick. Turn this down so that Unreal's not blowing our ears out. So here we go. Everybody's in here. But the button won't click for some reason. There we go. We should be good now. Alright, well, there we go. I'll host a game, so I won't be able to show off the respawn system, but I'll be able to show off, I'll just show off the new map also, which I was not planning to do. Or I won't, because everything is breaking. Huh. Doug also got the server browser UI so that I could show off this screen. The screen that's not working right now, so that is fantastic. It looks nice. Functionality, it was working about 20 minutes ago, so I'm just going to come in here and hopefully this button works now. There we go. So I can hop in and show you guys this level at least. So what we got in here, so when you highlight over this, it'll actually give you a little blurb about what that class is, what the importance of it is, and just kind of quickly run through why you would want to do that, have that on your team. Come in here. Let me just add too much weight so that I can show that off. And then when I come in here, you see that I'm moving very, very slow right now. Right now, what we have this set to is the, it's applying a 0.5 modifier on this just to show it off. As I lose weight though, you'll see that I speed up. So now my stamina is burning slower. It'll regen faster when I crouch, and it doesn't deplete as quickly. So if I pop into, and this is our new map. It was hard to see it in the screenshots, but this is what Dom's working on. And we're going to be playtesting all these later today. So if you want to come by and play the one that's working, you can come by and do that later. I just want to pop in here, show off the bomb game mode real quick, and then I can hop off. So if I throw my grenade, just so I can speed up. If I come over here, hit this centralized bomb, got the prompt for the pickup. We have a radial wheel in there so that it conveys to the player how long it's actually taking them. And then if I take this over to the enemy's team's bridge, I'll be able to plant that at our bomb plant location and set that timer there. I'm not going to wait for it to explode. Right now it's set to a 20-second timer, so I'm not going to wait for that. But at the end of the 20 seconds, if the enemy team does not come in and defuse that, then the bomb will blow up and my team will win the round. If they do come in and defuse it, whoever defuses it will then be the one that's equipping the bomb, and they'll be able to move the bomb across the map in the other direction. So, hop out of that. All right, looking forward. First, I'm going to go find out why those buttons weren't working. But after that, we're going to get our Saboteur and Grenadier roles implemented. The Saboteur is going to be, he's going to be able to use C4 to blow through destructible cover. And the Grenadier is going to have a grenade launcher. And the grenade launcher that Isaac's been working on is pretty cool looking, so I'm excited for that. The health and healing mechanics, what we're doing for that is our health is actually working on 3 different variables. There's our max health, there's our max possible, and then there's our current health. As you lose, so if I get shot, I'm going to lose my current health, and I could be at 50%. And then my max possible is going to tick down. So I only have a set amount of time to use a health pack before it's ultimately not going to heal me anymore. So if I stay in the fight, I'm not going to be able to heal myself. If I back out and throw that med kit on, then I'll be able to patch myself up and keep going. We're going to be working on the Saboteur node. Dom's already paper mapping that out, so we'll have a white box for that. Playtesting, again, we're going to have a playtest today. We're trying to get at least a 4-on-4, hopefully a 5-on-5. So if you want to do that, come by. We're almost all the way against the dev machines in the back. Come by and we'll have those set up to play. And then the implementation of role abilities. So Isaac has a whole list of abilities that he's trying to apply to the 3 classes that we have set up there. We're going to start getting those getting those variables set up so that for our next playtest, everybody will actually be able to go in there and hammer their heads against the classes and stuff. And that is all I have for this week.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyrie Summerall, lead of World of Marts, and this is our milestone 2. Alright, so for this milestone, I was working on the our mini boss. I was able to get his kilt done in Substance Painter, and now that's all left for him to do is implement his the rest of his equipment on and texture him, and then we'll be able to implement him into the game to make sure he's rig ready, animation ready. Also, we were able to complete our mocap. I forgot to get the videos from Donald, so I can't really show you what we did in the mocap studio until they're cleaned in Motion Builder, but we do have them. And for our next sprint, that's what we're going to be doing, cleaning those out, hashing those out, so we can have them in-game ready to be implemented. Torquey Ragged has also been improved upon. So the ZBrush model and the mesh model are working out pretty well. We hope to be having that finished by the next sprint, so we can also have her in the build. If not, we can. We're probably gonna have her in the 4th milestone sprint, rigged ready and animation ready, so we can get her in there as well. For our throne room, we have hashed out a lot of the assets for it. So hopefully by the next sprint, we'll actually have a better playable build ready, so we can implement all these assets as well as everything that we have included in here, the level itself, along with all of our particle effects, the water, the event spawns, and things of that nature. Our build wasn't working, so I got our programmer Bo to actually make a video of the build that we have so far with the ability system and everything else implemented into our forest level.
I am a programmer.
So this is what we have right now. So these are some of our abilities that we are able to spawn. We got our day to night cycle working. Now we just need to implement the event mob boss spawns. But everybody's abilities working, the stamina bar is working, health, magic regeneration, all that is working very smoothly right now. So if anything, all we need to do is make sure that our abilities look good now. So we have our icons working, everything is working smoothly for this. And we also are trying to get our multiplayer working as well. Right now we don't have enough characters to test it out, so as soon as we get our second character done, we'll be able to test out our multiplayer and play test that to make sure everything runs smoothly and everything looks good. If this video is long, so if you are interested in seeing the rest of our abilities from all the characters, it will be on our YouTube channel if you are interested in seeing our improvements and things. And as for what we're doing next, we hope to have our damage system all cleaned up and hashed out, so there's no bugs in that. Right now we have a few bugs in it where if the player hits them, then sometimes it doesn't want to read it. So we hope to have that finished along with our character modeling. We hope to have that finished sometime soon within the next few sprints. As I said before, we're done with mocap, so now we just need to implement everything into Motion Builder, clean that up, bring it into Unreal, and we will actually have better combat gameplay to show off for next sprint, and our enemy spawn system, as well as we're updating the forest level that you just see. And that's about it. Thank you.
That's not me. That's me. Twitch. All right, morning, guys. It's been a crazy sprint for Call Center Simulator 2018, now Call Center Simulator, part of a rebranding effort we're working on. Go to presentation. So we did decide to rebrand the game. We were looking at logo ideas. We thought this looked better. We're abbreviating to CCS VR as opposed to CCS 18. We think that works really well. One of the reasons that we're rebranding is we have signed on with Monster Vault Entertainment to help us make the game. It gives us access to some really great artists that are former UAT students. I don't know if you guys know Mike Demo, but he's amazing. He runs the company. We are really, really happy to have them. I'll show you some of the work that they've gotten into us this week as well. In terms of design, we've got 3 white boxes done that we're really happy about. We've also got a new paper map from one of our online students that actually looks pretty good. We're also working on documentation. Our GDD hasn't been fleshed out since last semester when it was for the prototype, so we're trying to beef that up. Moving on to art, we've got some of the new assets here. We started working on texturing. I want to shout out Isaac Morales, who's not on our team in the class, but has been sending us some assets as well. So we are very, very happy to have his help. We also brought on Rachel Hedman, along with the Monster Vault guys this week, so we've got 3 new artists as of this week alone. From Monster Vault, these are some of the assets that Demo's gotten us in just the last few days that look really good. So a boombox, a corkboard, a TV that's wall mounted, a stapler, soda machine, a chair, a whiteboard. And the interesting thing about all of these assets is they will be interactable. You'll be able to go up to the soda machine, press a button on it, have a soda dispense, shake it up, throw it at your buddy, and have it explode. It'll be that level of interaction. The wheelchair or the rolly chair will spin around. The wheels will work. You can push it around, that kind of thing. So we are excited to have these models so we can start programming what they do. Programming has been insane this week, or this sprint. So we were looking for an online solution for our multiplayer, and Ben actually tipped us off about Spatial OS from Improbable. So this is actually an MMO platform that just opened up VR, but it basically works on the Google Cloud. So you can do all of your processing, all of your back-end processing on the Google Cloud without taxing any of the clients, without taxing the users, which means that right now we have an Oculus running in our build that is below the minimum requirements for the Oculus and is running great because stuff is being handled on the back end. So really interesting technology. Beyond that, you guys saw our movement system last sprint. It's looking much better now. We're still working on it. We're trying to get it into the build. It's not there currently. We have voice communication. The voice setup, it's currently push to talk. We're messing with that, but it's really good for multiplayer. It's really natural. Shooting has been a struggle. Working with spatial, we have to learn an entirely new language called Schema, and it's actually pretty brilliant, but it's been a lot of research for our 3 programmers. So we have shooting virtually figured out, we think. It is crashing when we actually try and fire the gun. So we're reaching out to Spatial today. We should have that figured out. Our grab script is in. So I have not actually even seen this build this morning, so let's see where it's at now. Hey, build. Okay. All right, so we've got a test bed right now with some interactive objects. I believe in the build we have 3 people right now. They will be represented as spheres and hands. Apparently we have changed to the Monster Vault logo for our teleport, which I haven't even seen. They were working all night.
Hello?
I don't know if we can see any of the other players right now.
Delay.
Okay, so you can kind of see shadows.
Alright,
We
start
have
throwing things.
someone trying to drive right now, but I guess the spectator mode isn't working. You can see, we can pick up, we can highlight objects, you can actually play
Go look
catch. You can run up, you can have a slap fight, you can high five, you can talk to each other. It's pretty exciting. We currently have a teleport movement system because we don't have animations in yet. So we're looking at putting a delay on that, and once we've got animations, creating persistency of movement, so your character model will actually have to run over to the space you want to teleport to before the camera will move to that space. I think with multiplayer you have to have persistency. So I think you guys can kind of tell what's happening. We're supposed to have an environment in here too, but I guess we don't. Moving on to our next sprint objectives. So we're trying to get the gun script in. Hopefully that's actually today. We're reaching out to Spatial today, so we'll see how that goes. The prototyping movement, again, that's trying to create a delay for the purpose of animating. Integrating our environments, we were hoping to have some of that done today, but we're going to hopefully have the multiplayer integrated in our environments today. Documentation is our big push with the designers. We're also working on the sandbox mode. We are rebranding, getting new social media up, all of that. Probably finalizing the logo. That was a first run at our new logo, so that's going to be interesting. And then just art. We've got a bunch of artists working right now. As we get assets, we're going to start incorporating them into our environments. So, big sprint for Call Center Simulator. Next sprint will hopefully be even bigger. Thanks so much.
Hello, I'm Roger. I'm team lead for Morpheus, and this is our Build 2 presentation. Okay. So we are currently focusing on fleshing out our different zones. We have 4 that are in development and 4 transitional zones that take you to those zones. I'm saying zones a lot. Our first one is the forest, which is made by Jerry. He's in the audience. This area shows it has 3 different puzzles, and we're currently mapping these out in the documentation and really getting the detail laid out so that the programmers can go in and implement them. You can see over there on the right, there's that flower area. That's our next objective to start, implementing. And down below, you can see like an in-game footage. We need the artist to go in and then start texturing things. So it's just, getting these white boxed, figuring out what's needed, and then, tasking those out to the people. Our next area is the swamp. This one's still early in development. I'm helping the online student with the whiteboxing. There was some stuff going on where she was using too many cubes, so I got the terrain in there and I'm showing her how to use that stuff, and that requires me to write some documentation, all that. But yeah, she's working on the dungeon for this area next. Another online student is working on our desert area. The picture on the right is, that's right, is Dakota's level. He's an on-ground student, and these are connected. So the one over there that looks like a spinning fan, that is the transitional zone that leads into the desert. And then the desert is where you find the forms and you complete it. And when you complete this area, it will reconnect to the main island. So these zones come together to form a final world. Our 4th zone is Glacier Gorge. This one is designed by John, and I've been helping him with this one mostly. So we have some concepts here. Right here we have this ice platforming segment. We are playing with the skeleton and some story segments. So he'll actually be up there where that fire crystal is, and he'll shoot the ice platforms and melt them. And you have to jump across and try to make sure that you don't fall in. And if you fall in, it just resets you back, and the puzzle resets. And you can see over there is like the scene view of that. The bottom picture is the crystals. We've been working pretty hard on those. The gravity crystals, they move in and out. They can cause objects around them to rotate, so that island you see with the fire crystal and that blue crystal will actually move around it. And if there's one nearby, it will switch orbit, and you can move around the level with that. And those are all functional. I don't know if they're in the build, but if they are, we can show those off. Okay, and that's our presentation. Is it this one, Todd? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to shift this a bit so we can drive it. So this first area is that one you saw in the presentation. It's the transitional zone to the desert. We are playing with some concepts here where you can use magnesis without having magball. So it introduces magball before you have them. And he's plugging that in, and that's activating that line on the ground, which activates the one in the sky. And so when you step on it, it connects to it, and then you can control the magnesis by using the 2 different platforms. And so you pick up that ball and you can change the different networks there, and the goal is to get it to the end. And this is all made with designer code, I like to call it, because no one actually programmed this. This is just using what we've had previously, which is cool. We try to make things modular enough so you can plug and play.
I don't see it.
The levers was like the initial idea. So if you activate the levers, Todd, you'll see that, don't take it out. You'll see that it moves to the fan that's underneath the giant landmass, and that will activate and start the island's rotation. This tornado appears, and you can use it to teleport around this level. And each of these different islands that are connected to this main one will have a different thing you have to solve. So to get through this area, you have to obviously solve each island and then teleport around. So right here, you can see that there's no puzzle, so we just went right to the objective, and we got the island being pulled towards the center. So the goal is to get every one of those to come together, which is what Morpheus is rebuilding the world. You can go to the next zone. That's really bright.
Yeah.
So we need to turn down the bloom on this scene. One thing we accomplished this sprint was our wind flowers. We kind of threw a lot around just to test them out, but they will push you up, and you can use these to get around. The cockatrice has a hover ability now, so if you're in his form and you fly up, you can hover and go forward. If you hit space, there's a flap, so it lets you keep going, but eventually you will fall down. And that pushed you up
That's not
really,
supposed to happen.
really high. So yeah, that's all new stuff. We're trying to get those functional. Oh yeah, this is here. Cool. This is by far the coolest level so far. It's the one that's gotten most developed. So you can shoot these crystals with the skeleton, and they will activate. So you can see there the gravity crystal turned off, caused the islands to stop moving, and then all the small rubble moved. These are bridge crystals. If you activate these, you can use them to get across. We also have the fire crystals, which can be used to melt ice. So Todd's going to go over there to the fire crystal, and he's going to show that. We're also playing with sounds. I don't know if you guys heard that, but it went... there's a lot of that we're playing with. Yeah, you can see it melted, but Todd's terrible.
Sorry.
We also have vertical crystals. Those work like elevators. They're a little confusing at times, but we're working through them, getting them to make sense in the world. Yeah, those are our crystals. Next scene. This is the swamp we were showing off. This is still early in development. We're still figuring out the level flow and what we want to put in it. This area will use the slime and the wolf. So if you go into the water there, you'll see that the designer is playing around with a trail concept. We're still working on this with the other designers to figure out what we want to do with this. But the wolf does use scent as a trail mechanic, so this is something we want to play with. And those are our 4 levels. Going forward, we will keep working on these, implementing them, and we hope to have a complete 4-zone game at the end of the semester. Thank you.
Wow, impressive progress for everyone. Please give yourselves another round of applause. It's really fun to watch. All right, today is Sprint Planning Day, so there's a lot to do. Make sure that you're connecting with any online team members that are new, and that's for everybody, not just the leads. Make them feel at home and part of your team. Let's go ahead and turn off our recording.